back to our busy phones. Dianne is in California. What's happening, Dianne? How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi. Hey, Sean. I watched the Michael Moore interview.
Yeah.
And I think you won the debate there.
Well, you know, it was, first of all, let me just tell you what happened with this behind the scenes. I got a ton of email on it, and most people furious with Michael. Do you realize we sat down in what was going to be like a 15-minute interview? Do you realize we did not stop for 45 straight minutes? So we didn't even get to the good stuff last night. And then Michael Moore's people are having a fit. Some people are representing. You got to run it start to finish. So we're going to find a way to get some of this other stuff in. There's some great stuff in here we haven't even begun to get to here. I actually, you know, it's very interesting. You meet people, and you just sort of look at him, how do you think this way? And that was sort of my feeling when I was talking to him. And, you know, it's just odd. You know, because you wouldn't hate him if you met him. I'm telling you, you wouldn't say, I hate this guy, you know, but I think he's a true believer. I think he really, I don't think he's doing this for money. That may surprise a lot of people. Now, I do think he likes the money. You know, the one question I asked him, I said, do you think Castro would allow you to make millions of dollars trashing his system if you were in Cuba? Well, Hannity, yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, you know, what do you say to that? It's kind of, you know, it's pretty naive.
Well, and you know what? You're right. He has simplistic viewpoints. I mean, you said that, naive. So I mean, it's just, and the thing that made you win is that you delved into the issues and presented scenarios that I think were very, you know.
A couple of key points that really stood out in my mind that were the parts that aired last night. You know, for example, you know, all right, he believes the government is responsible for the fact that people bought homes they couldn't afford, that people were bamboozled. And I said, Michael, don't you ever read contracts before you sign them? Now, I know people say, well, it takes too long to read these contracts, and or if you're not going to do it, but, you know, have a lawyer do it. He said, well, how is a poor person going to afford a lawyer? If you can't afford the lawyer to buy the house you're buying, you can't afford the house. I mean, it's like buying a car, but the car, you know, you spend too much money on gas, so you can't drive the car. You don't buy that car. It's the same thing. And so I was trying to explain to him, so who pays? He wouldn't answer the question. But somehow he thinks that everybody was duped into signing these mortgages. It's not their fault. There's no individual responsibility anymore. And at the end of the day, the government is going to take it. Let me give you an example. Part of what didn't air, I said, so Michael, how much of my money do you want to take? He goes, well, twice as much as you're paying now. Well, that means I need to make 20% more, because in New York, I pay about 60% in taxes. I said, Michael, I pay 60%. He goes, no, you don't. I said, Michael, I do. I'm telling you, I do. And he's like, you know, well, it can't be 60%. Well, he says, so basically I have to pay 120% of what I'm making. So I'm 20% in the hole. I've got to go out and earn another 20% to live in Michael Moore's world. Then it raises the question about hypocrisy. If he believes in this socialist utopia, why doesn't he then lead by example and give all of his money to charity? And the reality is no liberal does that. They're only generous with your money. So it's very revealing to me by just letting him hang himself.
Well, and also he said, yeah, well, I give it to people, but, you know, he just you know, certain people from the movies and stuff, so.
Well, yeah, but
it was interesting.
Liberals are generous only with your money. You got to remember that. It's because he has every opportunity. Now, look, his movies, he would not even acknowledge he was a multimillionaire. I have some money. I have 2 houses. Michael, you're a multimillionaire. Well, I don't know about that. He's a multimillionaire. I mean, he is, if you look at just the dollars and cents of this, either that he's the most reckless spender that ever existed in the entire world. Because if you net $300 million in films, which is the amount of money Forbes estimates that he has gotten, that doesn't include DVD sales in some cases, so he's a multimillionaire, but he doesn't want to admit it. And I find that pretty strange. Now look, so they'll say, well, Hannity, you're doing pretty well. And I said, well, but I'm not trashing the system that allowed me to rise from nothing to have chances and hope and dreams and opportunity and the ability to fulfill them. I'm actually praising that system, and I'm trying to preserve that system for those people that follow me. That a guy that literally had to drop out of school 3 times because he had no money, a guy that had less than $200 in the bank, that couldn't pay his rent, could pursue his dream. My dream was never money. My dream was just, a guy to have a microphone to be on the radio. And
yeah. And you probably weren't all bitter about, people that made more than you and stuff, and thinking, well,
I'm still not.
Yeah, it's just not. It's not right. I just think.
I don't compare myself to other people. Frankly, if I never had another bit of success in my professional radio or television career, I'd be like, I got much more than I really, honestly deserved or dreamed of, even when I started. Because I started out working for free. I started out working for little or no money. I just pursued a passion. And, a lot of young people ask me what my advice for their life and their career, and my advice to them is find a passion and find something you love, because while you're pursuing that, you'll be giving back to other people, whatever it is. Like some people like medicine. If you want to be a doctor, I don't know a single doctor that ever gets into medicine because they want to be a doctor, because they want to get rich. I know it's a myth that all doctors are rich. I know plenty of doctors that are struggling and can't pay back their student loans and can't pay their rent every month, in part because of the government involvement in the healthcare system, etc. But anyway,
well, I think
I'm glad you like it.
I'm just going to end with agreeing with you about Michael Moore. I think he's probably got a good heart, I'm sure, and all that. It's just that he's wrong.
He's just so misguided. It's almost breathtaking. I hope we put together, and I haven't really talked about it with my producers yet, but I'm sure the other 35 minutes of this interview, or 30 minutes of this interview, we'll get on in the near future, I promise. Maybe even later this week, okay?
Great.
All right, thanks, Diane. I'll tell you about when it happens. Thank you, appreciate it. 800-941-SEAN is our number. Joe in South Texas. Joe, you're